When I first started investing, I only used to look at the P ratio of the stock, and unsurprisingly, that did not end well. But over the last few years, I've learned a lot of things, and now I have a full-fledged system on how to analyze a stock for long-term investing. And annual reports play a huge part in that. So in this video, I'll be talking about how to read and analyze the annual report of a company. Now, this is going to be a very long and technical video and probably a bit boring. But stick with me for the next 60 minutes because you're going to learn a lot. And I promise you that this will be one of the most helpful videos you'll ever watch on investing. When you look for something basic like what is a P ratio, there are thousands of videos. There are videos in Hindi, there are videos in English, there are even animated videos. But when it comes to important and advanced topics like annual reports or how to look at the company's financial statements, then there are very few videos. And this video will be the complete guide on everything I look for. This video is divided into two parts. The first one is theoretical part where I'll be talking about what to look for and various other parameters. And the second part, the longer part will be the practical approach. If that is something you want to learn, then this video is definitely for you. Welcome back to another video, guys. I'm Vikrant, and in this video we'll be learning how to read the annual report of a company. It's been a while since I've made a video on fundamental analysis on investing, so this is going to be a really good video, and it's only for serious investors or serious learners. But before that, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, do so by clicking on the subscribe button, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram at VikrantC2003. Let's begin. There are thousands of companies in the stock market, and I can't analyze all the companies. And the truth is, majority, 80% of the companies are not worth investing in. So the first method or the first layer is about the basics. I look at the P ratio of the company, I look at how much debt it has, I look at the promoters holding, like if the management has a stake in the company or not, if the management has pledged certain shares. And this is the most basic form of analysis, and honestly this eliminates like 70% of the companies out there. Now most people don't look ahead of these few parameters, like this is all they look at, and honestly this alone is not enough to invest in a company. The second layer I uncover is looking at the financial statements. So let's say that I have found a company that has low debt, where the promoters have a good stake and no shares are pledged. So that has passed the first round. Then I look at the financial statements, that is the balance sheet, profit and loss statement, and cash flow statement. And after I look at that, I compare it with the previous years. I use MS Excel to find different stuff about that. And then I learn the basic stuff about the company, like what the company does, what sector is the company in, how does the company make money, etc. I know a lot of people who have invested in companies that they know nothing about. Like there was a guy I was talking to on WhatsApp, and he had bought shares of a particular company, and I had not heard about that company before. So I asked him, "What does this come?" So I asked him, "What does this company do?" And he literally had no idea. He had no idea what he had invested in. So the third step is I try to find the basic information of the company, and this is actually the easy part. The next one is looking at the management of the company. Now, management is more of a qualitative part of fundamental analysis, and we'll get to that later in the video. The fifth one is looking at macro factors like what industry is the company in, what are the problems faced by the industry, what is the future of the industry, etc. The sixth layer is peer comparison. Now, if I'm looking at an IT company, let's say I'm looking at TCS, I'll compare TCS with other IT companies like Infosys or HCL or Wipro, or maybe even some of the mid-cap companies like NIIT or something. And the seventh method is valuation. Now valuation, there are different ways to find the intrinsic value of a company. You can use something as simple as the Graham formula, or you can go into some deep complex discounted cash flow methods. Now personally, I like to find out different ranges of intrinsic value. For example, XYZ company is the intrinsic value of XYZ company could be anywhere between 220 and 250. So that's the range that I have decided, and if it goes below that range, then I'm interested in buying the company. And finally, there is technical analysis. Now as an investor, technical analysis isn't something that you need to focus on. It's not a must-have skill, but it helps me plan my entries and exits better. And using using techno fundamental analysis is definitely more helpful than using just fundamental analysis. So this is the theoretical part of the brief overview of what I do. Now, how does an annual report help you? So I assume you already know what the annual report means. If you look at these 4 points, point number 2, 3, 4, and 5, the financial statements, the info about the company, the management, and the macro factors. You can literally analyze these 4 points just from the annual report of a company. And in this video, I'll show you how you can do that practically by choosing a stock. Annual reports are usually 2, 3, 400 pages long. And if you're investing, my recommendation would be not to start with the annual report, because most people don't finish reading the annual report because it's so thick. So I only look at the annual reports of the company that are fundamentally strong, that have a good balance sheet, etc. These are the 7 things I look at when I'm analyzing a company's annual report. And in this video, we'll be talking about all of these points practically in detail. So now let's start with the live example of ITC. Now ITC is one of my favorite companies in the entire stock market. I love the company. If you have ever visited the subreddit r/Indian Street Bets, like retail traders or investors love ITC. And I personally am biased towards ITC, but as a trader, ITC is one of my favorite stocks to short. I have literally shorted the stock maybe a dozen or 2 dozen times over the last couple of months. Even though we are in a bull run, ITC still remains one of my favorite stocks to short. So we'll download and look at the annual report of ITC and we'll analyze it. The first thing that we'll learn is how do you find the annual report of a company. Now the answer is pretty simple. Just search for the company and just type annual report. So let's say that I want to find the annual report of HDFC Bank. HDFC Bank annual report. Just search for it and then you can download it from the authentic website of the company, or you can use screener.com. So there are annual reports of the company from different years. So since we are interested in ITC, I've just searched for ITC's annual report, and then we go onto its website, and then all we have to do is download it. So here are different PDF versions of ITC's annual report. So since we are looking at 2020's annual report, just click on this and then the annual report will be downloaded. Another method of downloading the annual report of company is to use screener.com. Now screener.in is one of my favorite websites for fundamental analysis along with ticker tape. So just search the company you want to. So just search for ITC and below on the lower end of the website there's a section called annual reports, and then just click on the link and the annual report will be downloaded. So I've already downloaded it, and now what we are going to do is we'll analyze it. So let me just zoom it in. Okay, so this is the annual report of ITC. It has 382 pages, so it's a pretty long document. So there are a few basic points about ITC, like the address, the date when this report was made, etc. So let's start our analysis. This is the main contents page, and here you can find out on which page we have to look for things. So the first one is board of directors and committees. That's page number 1. Corporate governance, this is an important one, starts from page 10. Board of directors report of board of directors starts from page 36, etc., etc. So initial pages are really important to read because you get a fair idea of the basic overview of the company. So I've already spent, I don't know, 3-4 hours reading ITC's annual report and preparing notes on that. So I've highlighted a few things, and then we'll discuss more on those things. So the annual report starts with coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic. ITC talks about COVID-19. So this is an important section. This talks about the basic stuff about the company. If you look at this paragraph, this is the basic information of what ITC does. This is important. If you don't know anything about ITC, or even if you know something about ITC, this is what you need to know. Once you have read this, there's an infographic below, and this talks about the different sectors that ITC operates in. Now, you may know that ITC is into manufacturing, FMCG. You might know that. Maybe some people know that ITC is in agriculture, and maybe some people know that ITC into the service sector. So this gives you a brief overview of how diversified the business is. And there's some and and there are some main highlights about ITC, and you can read this if you want to. This will give you a brief overview of ITC. Now this now this is an important part. ITC's businesses. This is all about what ITC does for business. The the most famous one is FMCG. The most famous one is FMCG, which you probably already know. So companies like Ashirwad Rice, Sunfeast, Bingo, Yippee, Classmate, this is a famous one for students, Savlon, all these things. All these companies are subsidiaries of ITC. This is about the agro business of ITC. You can read it if you want to. Just pause the video if you want to read a particular point. Paperboards and packaging. Now, I did not know that ITC was in packaging, so this is something new for me. Then we have hotels. Now, ITC has a chain of high-end hotels, so it's already mentioned that there are 109 hotel properties across 73 locations. And then there's Infotech. This is a subsidiary of ITC, and this is like a snapshot of ITC. So all these things, this is just about an overview, like this is just about what the company does. And then we have some data points that you can look at. Here's ITC's response to COVID-19, and you can see that the different ways that ITC has developed to fight COVID-19 and retaliate against it. So these are social initiatives. Now, when a business has social initiatives, when a business does something good for society, that increases the goodwill of the company, which is a good thing for the company. And this is about the business one. So socially, what has ITC done to improve the lives of the society or the people in the society? And this is what ITC has done business wise to decrease the losses or increase the productivity or the sales and stuff. And here are the new launches during the lockdown period. Now, when you're reading the annual report of a company, always keep in mind that the company will always try to present a rosy picture in front of you. So most of what you read is going to be BS, and you'll have to look through the BS. So there's soap and other sanitizer and health related stuff. So this is a good move because an FMCG company developing stuff related to coronavirus has a good demand in the market. So based on these data points or based on these images, what I can conclude is that ITC is quick enough to find opportunities even in the period of the pandemic. And there's about and this is about the traditional distribution channel of ITC and how it has tied up with different companies like Zomato, Swiggy, Domino's, etc. This is about ITC hotels, and this seems like an advertisement, so we are going to skip it. And then these are the different products that ITC has launched over the last few months, I would say. And even this seems like an advertisement, so we'll skip this as well. So this is like the food segment of ITC and what kind of products ITC has. So if you just look at the list, you can see that products like these are consumed on a wide basis all throughout the India. So there's good demand of these products. If you have read the book One Up on Wall Street, what Peter Lynch suggests is that invest in companies that you see around you. the products you use. So let's say that you buy biscuits from ITC, you buy Ashirwad from ITC, so you use ITC's product. So that makes it a good investment or a company worth looking into. And this is just the social stuff. Again, we can skip this part. And here, this is the important point. So I'll just mark a star over here. Now, when you're looking at the board of directors, something you can focus on is who are the board of directors and do a Google search on those members. So Sanjeev Puri is the chairman and managing director or the CEO of ITC. So let's Google him, Sanjeev Puri. So you can find out different websites, like you can find out his LinkedIn profile and other things about Sanjeev Puri. So when you think, so when you see stuff like insider trading, fraud, manipulation, and negative news about the CEO, that's a red sign. And if you see, so you can just do a quick Google search on the important people in ITC. So we have looked at ITC's CEO. And then there are other people in ITC, like these are the executive directors, this is the CFO, and these are board members. Now you don't have to search for all the members, just look at the CEO, and that's it. So these are non-executive directors, and this is like corporate social responsibility and sustainability committee, and these committees you don't have to look at. Corporate management, chairman, this is the important post. Secretary may be an important post, and yeah, and this is like a brief overview of S. Puri, or the uh, CEO of ITC. Now, if you didn't Google search him, you can find out more information about the CEO. But the thing is, if ITC is talking about its CEO, it will only talk about the positive points about the CEO and not the negative ones. So always Google search about the CEO, and occasionally you can find out some pretty interesting stuff, uh, which can which can be a red flag for you. So the CEO of ITC is from IIT Kanpur, and he also has gone in Wharton School of Business. So he's clearly educationally qualified. Then he has served as COO of ITC, and some other stuff about him. Sanjeev Puri is qualified to run ITC, and yeah, that's about him. Now you can also look at the other directors if you have time, but I'm just going to skip through it. So I'll just skip this part. Now this is another important part, corporate governance. I'll mark it 3 stars. And this is something you need to read. Uh, this is like an important part of analysis. So this talks about the company's philosophy. Now, if you're a numbers guy, this may not be interesting for you, but understanding the philosophy of a company is pretty important, because like if you know how the board thinks, their values, then you know that the company is in good hands or not. Then here's the structure and the different board committees and what they do, and this is the composition, so the number of directors, the percentage, etc. And here's another thing to look at, the annual general meeting of a company. You can see that has the board attended the annual general meeting or not. If the attendance of the members in board meetings is less, that means that the management is not that serious, and that's not a good sign for me. So checking the attendance of a company is also sort of important, not that important, but you cannot skip it. And this is also a big point for me, remuneration. Now, remuneration is simply how much ITC pays its director, the salary. Now, ITC is one of the biggest companies in Now ITC is one of the biggest companies in India, and it makes a lot of money. So I assume they'll pay the board of directors handsomely. But let's say that ITC pays its board of directors maybe 10 crores per year. So I'm just throwing random numbers. Now, for a company like ITC, 10 crores may be justifiable because it makes so much money. But if you're looking at a small cap or a mid cap company, even if the CEO makes 5 crores per year, that may not be justifiable. So just look at the company size, the profit it makes, and then look at the salary of different people on the board. So this is the structure. You can read it like the chairman and other executive directors are entitled to performance bonus of each financial year up to a maximum of 200 up to a maximum of 300% and 200% on their basic slash consolidated salary respectively. And the non-executive directors, they can receive commissions between 70 lakhs to 1 crore approved by shareholders. So we'll go deeper into that. And this is the seating fees, like the board of directors get money for attending board meetings. So yeah, this is an important part. So this talks about how much the directors of a company make. So as per the CEO, how much he makes. So his basic salary is 210 lakhs. So this is in lakhs. So that's 2.1 crores plus benefits of 43 lakhs plus a bonus of 4 crores that equates up to almost 7 crores. Then these people make 4 crores too. The other people make 4 crores, 2 crores, and 3.5 crores respectively. And then there are some lower figures of 70 lakhs, 50 lakhs, etc. And this person. So this person makes 5.7 crores. Now, if you see an unusual figure, just mark it and search for this person, what this person does. So there's a 3 number symbol on it, and you can see that. And you can see that Mr. YC Deveshwar passed away in 2011. So just if you see an unusual figure, just look more into it. Now this is another important part. I'll just mark it 3 stars. Shareholders information. So you can see that the shareholders annual general meeting was held on 4th September 2020 on electronic platform at 10:30 a.m. And just look at this shareholder and investor complaints. The NSE BSE Limited and the Calcutta Stock Exchange Limited have confirmed that there are no investor complaints pending against the company at the end of each quarter as on 31st March 2020. So this is an important one because if there are a lot of complaints against the company, that's a negative sign. If there are no complaints, that's a positive sign. And then there's information on how many times there has to be a meeting in a year. And This is like a fact about ITC that it is one of the most liquid and actively traded stocks in the Indian stock market. And this is just a basic structure on the number of shares and how many shares are in physical format, how many shares are in electronic format, etc. And this is an important chart. Mark it out. So there are different types of shareholders. There are shareholders like you and I who are retail traders or investors. We don't invest with a large sum of money, maybe a few lakhs or a few crores on the high end. But then there are institutions. Now institutions have infinite amount of money or like billions of dollars to invest. So if there is a big involvement of institutes in a company, that's a good sign. Now unless you are looking for companies which are micro caps or small caps, and you're trying to analyze good companies before the institutes do, this is a good sign. So you can see that almost 60% of ITC shares are held by institutions. Now, what does an institution mean? So these are financial institutes, insurance companies like LIC, mutual funds, whether that's SBI, Axis, or other mutual funds, banks, and others. And this is foreign FIIs and foreign portfolio. Then there are foreign companies that is included in the non-institutional shareholders part. And there is bodies corporate public. So this one public and others. So we are included in this one, and we only have 11% of ITC shares. The GDR, so the GDR is a concept about, ITC shares listed on the global stock exchange. Now, this is not something you need to know. This is just some basic stuff about ITC, like the company's high and low prices, the volume, etc. You can see that the darker one, this line, this is Nifty 50, and the lighter one is ITC. So ITC has always underperformed Nifty 50. Here we have the dividend history. Now this is again something important for me. Now some people love dividends, some people don't care about dividends, and I am one of those people who love dividends. Now unless you are investing maybe 500 rupees or maybe 1000 rupees, you may not care about dividends for a company. But if you invest maybe 10 lakhs or 25 lakhs in a single company like ITC, you're probably going to care about dividends. And in one of the videos I had read that if you invested 18 lakh rupees in ITC, that would give you an annual dividend of rupees 1 lakh each. Now I'd seen that in a video. I don't know if that's true or not. And let's just look at that. So we have data from 2010-11. The, So the company had given a dividend of 4.45 rupees, 4.5 rupees, 5 rupees, 6, 6.25, 8, and in 2016-17 there was a cut. There's a dollar sign in front of that. Here you can see that on expanded share capital arising out of bonus shares issued in the ratio of 1:2. That explains why the dividend is low. And finally in 2019-20 the dividend is 10.15, which is like really high compared to all the other years. And there's a symbol over here, and you can see that subject to approval of shareholders, and since it is January 2021, this has already been approved. So you can see that the company gives regular dividend, and dividend amount is somewhat stagnant, like you can expect like 4 rupees on the lower end up to 8 or 10 rupees on the higher end. So this part, plant locations. Now this is not something that we have to care about. This is like where different plants or factories are located. So we can skip reading this point. We can skip this one. And this is unclaimed dividend. If a company has unclaimed dividend, I think you are eligible to claim it for up to 7 years. I think I may be wrong on that. And this is also not something that we have to really care about. We can skip this part. We can skip this part as well. uh, then how the dividend has to be paid. This is clearly written. So it can be paid through RTGS, NECH or NEFT, and bank details and all these dividend related stuff. Now this is also a very important point. So let's mark it 3 stars. This is management discussion and analysis. Now you have to read this whole thing. Now you have to read this whole thing from here all the way up to the end, because this is like the thing that now this is the thing that will help you analyze the management of the company more clearly. So you can see that the first paragraph, and so you can see that even in the first paragraph they have talked about slowdown in the global economy due to the coronavirus, etc. And there are some outputs, and now there are some facts and figures about coronavirus and the slowdown and growth, etc. But you can see that over here I have highlighted uh, the this line. So now what I'm trying to find out is how honest the company is about problems. This is a major thing that a lot of people don't focus on. Coronavirus was a serious problem and it still is a serious problem. What I'm trying to find out is how the company presents a problem. Now, there are two ways a company can present a problem. The first one is they can act as if nothing has happened, it is all good, or even worse, they'll avoid talking about the problem. So this is the first method on how people. So this is the first way how companies can address a problem. The second method is they can honestly talk about the problem, the impact that the problem has caused, how the problem is being solved, or what the company is doing to take action against it. And this type of company, this qualifies as a good company, this is a bad company in terms of management. So you can clearly see that ITC is upfront about the problems. So this is a good sign. This means that the company is more transparent and more honest. This is about the Chinese and the Indian economy and the different stimulus packages and how the economy is being revived. And this is about the Make in India program, Atmanirbhar Bharat, etc. uh, the GDP of India and how it has gone down significantly. And then there is surge in food prices is causing inflation, consumer price index, etc. And this is the fiscal deficit, lower tax collections, and all these problems. So the company is talking about the problems. So this is a good sign. The company seems transparent on the surface. Now I've read all these points and I've highlighted a few points that I think should be highlighted. You can read that by downloading the report, and you can also read this whole report and find out the points that interest you. So this particular point is about what the company is doing for the society, like how it's helping farmers and other people who have lost their jobs or who have lost their livelihood from the coronavirus pandemic. So this is actually a good sign. This is about the image of the company, and you can see that they have finally talked about the financial performance. So they've talked about the social so they have talked about the social performance first, and then there is financial performance. In the initial stages, hotels and education businesses have been impacted mostly. Like, once, in March or April when there was lockdown, all the flights were cancelled, people did not go out, so that impacted hotels. And schools were closed, so education was also impacted. Like when schools were closed, it was all online, and the sale for pen, pencils, books, etc. reduced significantly. So the company has talked about that, which is pretty transparent, I would say. And then the cigarette market. Now, ITC's full form is the Indian Tobacco Company, which was first called the Imperial Tobacco Company. So it has also talked about the cigarette business. Now, cigarettes and tobacco is like a major source of revenue for ITC. I think 40-45% of ITC's revenue comes from cigarettes and tobacco products. Here's another problem that ITC has talked about, that is increase in taxes. Now, cigarette cigarettes and alcohol or tobacco. This is something that now these are some of the stuff that is generally not considered good for the society, which is kind of obvious. So government places like really high taxes on these types of products so that people don't really buy them. Now, since ITC's major produce comes from cigarettes and all that stuff, the taxes is going to be a major impact for ITC. This is a big problem. This is a big problem because coronavirus and this problem of lockdown and all that will go away in maybe a few months or maybe a year, who knows. But this is a long-term problem. And then there's stuff about and then there's stuff about pharma and liquor and FMCG, all that stuff. And here's the line: decline in revenue and profits during the fourth quarter. So you can see that the pandemic has clearly impacted ITC and they are completely upfront about it. They're not painting a rosy picture, rather it's a pretty depressing picture. That's honesty. Now this is the free cash flow generation of ITC. Now free cash flow is important for calculating the intrinsic values using the DCF formula. So we'll talk about that in a later video because it's very technical and kind of tough to talk about. And then this is like profits, dividends, and retained earnings. Now we can skip the financial statement part because all these things are included later in every company's annual reports. So this is about forex earnings, that is ITC making money from foreign sources. Then this is FMCG cigarettes, like this is about the cigarette business and different problems and stuff that's going in the cigarette business. Total tobacco consumption in the country has declined from 21% in 1980s to 9% today. So that's a steep decline in this is a major decline from 21% to 9%. And since ITC stands for Indian Tobacco Company, tobacco is obviously one of the major sources of revenue, and this will adversely impact ITC. So this is another problem for ITC. And that's not all. Here is another problem that ITC has presented. Now, this is a problem that even I did not know existed, or I did not even think about this problem. So this is something that I've learned by reading this annual report. So you can see that even in tobacco, like since let's say that uh, un, let's say that a normal cigarette is sold at 10 rupees. I don't know what cigarettes cost, so I may be way off on that. Plus, there is 18% GST or 13% GST, whatever the number is. So the cost is high. But if there is illegal cigarettes, if there are illegal tobacco products, on that GST is not there. On that taxes are low, so that illegal people will prefer illegal cigarettes and illegal tobacco products over the legal ones because the price is low. So this is another problem that I personally had never thought about, and this is kind of a big problem because as long as the taxes are high on cigarettes, the illegal cigarettes will always be more in demand. So here's an interesting fact that you probably did not know, that illegal cigarettes alone cause a revenue loss of about 15,000 crores per annum to the government. And then there are another few facts and data points about the tobacco business. So you can read that there's nothing really interesting in these parts, so I have not highlighted it. And this is about the impact of COVID-19 on cigarette consumption and cigarette sales. And then finally we have FMCG. So you can see that there's clear decline in demand, and how the growth has gone negative, and the impact of rural areas, and then educational part, like how sales of maybe classmate notebooks or pen, paper, pencil, whatever has impacted ITC. So you can read this stuff, and FMCG looks promising for ITC, and ITC has been trying to gain more profits from FMCG and reduce its revenue from cigarettes and tobaccos over the last few years. So there are food products, and there's stuff related to children, that is school work and etc. And this is all about that part. So you can read it if you want to, and I'll just skip through it because I've already read it, and it's not that interesting. And then this is about educational and stationery products. So this paragraph, this is another indication that ITC is more into social work. Like ITC does not exclude social work and social responsibility from its business. So this is another good sign for the image of the company. This is about agarbattis and matchsticks that ITC sells, and And this is about the hotels. Now, this part is brutal because hotels or the bed and breakfast industry has been significantly impacted by COVID-19, and ITC has like over 100 properties. So yeah, ITC has 109 properties and over 10,000 rooms. So you can see that the impact of COVID uh, over the hotel business. Now, something good about this is that hotels have zero debt. So ITC is like almost a debt-free company. So this is a good part. So personally, I don't like to invest in restaurants and hotels because they go out of business all the time. But still, hotels are only about 2 or 3% of ITC's revenue. So that's not a big deal for me. Then there's paperboards, paper and so then there's paperboards, paper and packaging. Now I did not know that ITC does this stuff. So this talks about how the COVID has impacted this business, and then you can read this stuff. So it's pretty repetitive. So like there's like different sectors like ITC has maybe so 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 there's different sectors. Let's say ITC has four sectors that it that it does business in. So it talks about the impact of COVID, uh, then it talks about the data figures, how it has resulted in decline in the company and what the company is doing. So this is about the tobacco business, this is about the FMCG, this is about hotels, this is about something else. So this is the basic outline of all these things. So I'm going to skip through this because this video will then be like 2-3 hours long, and I think we are almost done. So so your so you can skip some of these parts, the non-important part, and only look into the major part, because if you read all these things, then first of all it's really boring to read, and second of all it'll take forever. And here is annexure. Now most people don't focus on this one. It's because so this is the annexure to report of the board of directors. So you can see that this is the CIN of ITC. That is, ITC was formed in 1910 in West Bengal, and the industry code and all that stuff. Then this is about the registered office and all these basic details. Now you don't need to know these things. This is just like some basic information, and this is an important part. So these are about products and how much turnover does that product bring. This is about this is an important point. I have marked a star. You can see that FMCG, in that cigarettes bring about 45.77% of the gross turnover. Then branded food products, that is the rice and the biscuits, etc., bring in 22.4%. Others, educational and all these things, only bring in 5.26%. So the FMCG sector brings in about 72% of the total turnover. Then we have hotels. Now hotels only bring in about 4%, so that's not a big number. So even though hotels were hit by COVID, it's only 4% of the turnover, so it's not a big deal. Agribusiness is bigger than I had expected, which is about 12.75%. And then we have paperboards, packaging, and all these things. Now the reason why I'm looking at this stuff is because you can see that which sector has a lot of problems. Like hotel sector has problems during the COVID period, but it only has 4% weightage in the total turnover, so it's not a big deal. Cigarettes, this is a big percentage, almost 50%. These have like too many problems, whether that's taxes, illegal cigarettes, lower consumption, and all that stuff. So high problems, high turnover. So this is how you can look at problems. And these are the subsidiaries of ITC. You can check for some names if you want to, but honestly, this is not something that I'm interested in. So you can skip reading these parts. Now, a parent company usually has like 50 or 100 subsidiaries, so you can skip all these things. And now this is the important part. So this is about the shareholding pattern. Now we have discussed all these things. The in the annexure you will only find that thing in detail. So if you look at something interesting, it's that uh, I always say that promoters should have a good stake in the company, but ITC's promoters have zero stake in the company. They don't hold any shares. Why is this number zero? ITC wasn't founded by any particular fan. ITC wasn't founded by any particular family. Rather, it was created by several companies. That's why promoter stake is zero. Now, since this company was founded by uh, profession, now since this company was founded professionally, I don't mind the 0% promoters shareholding pattern. Then there is public shareholding. Now on the left side is the number of shares held at the beginning of the year, and this is at the end of the year. So you can see that mutual funds had 8.5% stake at the beginning of the year, and now they have 9.92, which is almost 10% stake at the end of the year. So there's a positive inflow by mutual funds. Banks had 8 point something percent, and now it's also 8 point something percent. So there's a negative inflow. There's a negative flow of about 0.05% change, so which is not a big deal. Now the government has no stake in the company. Uh, the government, whether that's state or central government, has no stake in the company. Insurance companies like LIC, they had 21.5% stake at the beginning of the year. Now they have 21.7, so it has increased. FPIs, FIIs, they had 17% stake. Now they only have 14.6% stake. So that has decreased. Now, this is a number you have to look at. Like FIIs are really smart investors, and if they have decreased the shareholding in ITC, you need to know why. So this is something that I would focus on. Then there are non-institutions, people like us, and how many shares we hold. So this one, individual shareholding pattern, is what you can look at. So retail traders only hold about 10% shares of ITC. And then these are the top 10 shareholders of ITC other than directors, promoters, etc. So the first one is Tobacco Manufacturers Limited, and then there is LIC, then there is specified, and then there are other different companies like General Insurance Company of India, the New India Assurance Company Limited, then Government of Singapore, and etc. Now you can skip reading this part, just read this part. This is also something important. Now all these things that we are looking at, this comes under the shareholding pattern. These are not separate different things. It is like a part of different things. It is just a part of the main top. Espuri, who is the CEO of ITC, he had 87,000 shares at the beginning of the year, and now he has 62,500 shares. So he has sold some of his shares. Then N. Anand, Executive Director, he had zero shares at the beginning, now he has 50,000 shares. So his stake is increased. Then Sumant, B. Sumant, he had 2,08,000 shares. Now he has 4 lakhs, so it has increased. And you can just see that whether the management is, increasing his stake in the company or decreasing. Now, if one or two managers sell their stake or buy more stake, that does not mean anything. But if like all the directors are selling the stake in the company, that's usually a red sign. And if all the directors are buying more and more shares, that's actually a good sign. So look at the macro instead of looking at the micro. Here you can see that this person, A Nayak, non-executive independent director, he had 6.4 lakh shares. Now he has 9 lakh shares. Now he has more shares than the CEO. So we need to look at who this person is. So we'll have to Google search this person, what he does, and more about him. Now this is about the remuneration. Now in annexure you will find the same point but in detail. So this is the gross salary of the CEO, which is 6.4 lakhs. Then there are other stuff included, and total he makes 7.5 crores. Sorry, this is crores, 6.4 crores, and total he makes about $1 million a year. Then this is another person, and when you add all these up, it's about 17 crores 99 lakhs, which is almost 18 crores. Now 18 crores for ITC is not a big number, but 18 crores for a mid cap or a small cap company can be a big number. And let's say that the company is losing money. So let's say the company has lost maybe 300 crores in a year, and it has been losing money every single year for the last 3 to 5 years. But on the other hand, it's paying its managers 10-15 crores per year. So this is a bad sign, because even though the company is losing money, it's paying its directors handsomely. That's a bad sign. And then this is about annexure to report on board of directors. So now we have come to an end of the qualitative part. Here comes quantitative part. This is the juicy stuff. This is the good stuff. The balance sheet, the P&L statement, the cash flow statement of ITC. Now I won't be discussing this in detail, because this video is about the annual report and the qualitative part of ITC. Honestly, I'm not a CA yet that I will have good insights on the financials of ITC. But I'll give you a few basic points or tips in mind to keep in mind. The first one is always look at the balance sheet of company from a thorn. The first one is that always look for uh, consolidated balance sheet of company. Now there are two types of balance sheets. The first one is standalone. The second one is the consolidated one. So standalone is only about one particular thing. Consolidated is about all the the main parent company and all the subsidiaries. So look for consolidated ones. And I've already talked about reading an annual report and other stuff in my book. So you can read my book. About 5 or 10,000 people have downloaded the book, but I don't know how many people have actually read it. But I've talked deeply about financial statements, annual reports, valuation, etc. Of TCS in my book. So you can read it. It's completely free. Just go to my website, download it. So, this is the financial statement. Now, cash flow statement is something that I don't see a lot of videos on. On YouTube, you can find basic videos on the P&L statement and the balance sheet, but this is something that most people don't really care about. But I personally love analyzing the cash flow statement, because it is something that is often overlooked. But one of the good things about the cash flow statement is that you cannot manipulate it. And I'll talk more about the cash flow statement in a future video. So from this page onwards, from the balance sheet onwards, I'll make a separate video on the financial statements, because if I keep on talking about balance sheet and all that stuff in detail, this video will be like 4 or 5 hours long. And honestly, if you have made it through here, because this is like a boring video, if you have made it to here, I am pretty sure that you have learned a lot of things, and you're probably a better investor now. So continuing to our PPT just based on the uh, annual reports. Here is my conclusion. Like ITC has honest management. Now, how did we conclude that? It's because they have decent salaries. They don't take a lot of money when the company is losing money. They have good attendance. They do social work, helping farmers, students, etc. They give consistent and high amount of dividend, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing for me. Then they address their problems honestly. They are completely transparent about it, whether that's about COVID-19, hotels, tobacco business, the decline in sales, illegal tobaccos, taxes, etc. And finally, they are good at adapting and handling the crisis. They know what the problem is, and then they minimize the risk, and finally they bring in new products to go back to the original level. Now here are a few problems based on the annual report of ITC. These are pretty obvious if you have read this annual report. And this was it. Like reading an annual report is a time consuming and sort of a boring task, but some companies have really good annual reports. Like if you have read TCS annual report, Reliance Industries annual report, Infosys's annual report, it's pretty good. And at the same time, try reading annual report of Suzlon Energy or JP Associates. These crappy companies. Try reading their annual report, and you'll see the difference. Now, if you don't want to do all these things, if you don't want to, you know, look at the financial statements, if you don't want to look at the management and all that stuff, just invest in index funds or mutual funds and you'll be golden. So thank you for watching this video. It is probably very long and pretty boring, but since you have managed to watch the whole video by taking notes, you have definitely gained an edge over the other investors, and I'm pretty sure you have learned a lot about how to analyze the management of a company and how to read the annual report of a company. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Till that time, take care. Bye bye. And the next video will be on cash flow statement. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel for the further video, and if you have any thoughts, comments about this video, just comment it. If you have any personal questions based on this video, just DM me on Instagram at Vikramc2003 and I'll reply back to your query or question. Bye bye.